Productivity applies to many different facets of personality types. This is why I personally find it very intriguing to dig in and find which ones are most effective for introverts. Now, if you're not an introvert and you're about to leave this video because like whatever, then I would encourage you to stay because you're gonna learn two pretty interesting things. The first one is that you're gonna kind of get a little bit of a picture of how we as introverts perceive and interpret the world and how it's kind of different, or a lot different than how you would, which is kind of interesting and kind of neat. And the second thing that you'll learn is these productivity hacks are not exclusive, right? So like you can still apply them and use them in many ways. They may not be as prevalent maybe in how you perceive productivity, but they're still useful. So you're still gonna learn something from that as well. Tip number 1, manage your energy, not just your time. So depending on your to-do list, introverts can get very, very exhausted very quickly, especially if there's a lot of like social tasks. And if you're exhausted and can barely think straight, then it doesn't really matter how much time you have left in your day. You're not gonna be able to be very productive. This is why the main way of combating this is to stick all of your heavy tasks and taxing stuff and kind of draining tasks out in front in the very beginning portion of your day when you have the most energy and the most grit to be able to push through that. By using your peak hours efficiently, you'll be able to get more done in less amount of time and also before you get worn out from your day's work. For me, this took a lot of self-awareness to figure out, okay, what drains me the most, and then learn how to regulate that. For example, most people find it very hard to believe that I'm introverted because they see me being very energized and full of life around people and in groups. And they're like, how can you possibly say you're introverted? But is it that people recharge me? Absolutely not. People exhaust me. The difference is that I've learned that in social situations, I've discovered what exhausts me the most and what wears me out the fastest. And so by steering clear of those and kind of navigating properly and consciously through the events, I can maintain my energy and I can my levels don't like spiral. They just kind of gradually fade as the night goes on or as the day goes on or as my meeting prolongs or whatever the case may be. So when managing your energy, it's best not to shoot from the hip, meaning that you need to know when to say no, when to recharge, and when to just stop. Just stop your work and recharge. And honestly, this is so hard for me because there's always something for me to be doing. There's always something I could be doing. And so it's hard to just know when to stop. And that was also a large part of the awareness, the self-awareness of that, and being disciplined and strict enough with myself to know what will happen if I don't stop and just be like, no, that's it. Like, I know my limits. I'm gonna stop right here. I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna do what I need to do to recharge, or even just saying no to someone. You know, learning that maybe the task that someone is asking you to do is gonna drain you. And it's gonna drain you too much and it's gonna wear you out. So learning to say no, beforehand instead of, looking back afterward and being completely exhausted and wishing that you had the foresight to be like, no, I can't do that today. And because there's almost always something to be doing, it can be like grueling to just set all that aside for a little bit and just kind of slow down, I guess, and take the time to recharge. But if I don't pace myself, I'll end up getting much less done throughout the day. And this is why you need to schedule your day around your low points and around the things that wear you down the most. And you also have to really know your limits. And obviously this applies to everybody, not just introverts. So figure out what tasks wear you down the most and try to front load those and get those done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Tip number 2, take your environment under control. I found for myself and also for other introverts that I've talked to, it seems that physical clutter makes mental clutter. Now, you may disagree with me on this, and it might just be an introverted thing, or it might just be a me thing. I mean, who knows? But when my workspace is disorganized and cluttered and falling apart, it's usually a good sign that my attention and concentration is kind of starting to fragment. And I think some of why this is because I'm very comfortable and I feel kind of safe with my thoughts. And so like, it's kind of like a safe place for me. That's why I'm quiet and like I kind of pull back and reserve when I need to recharge and stuff. My thoughts are very well organized, and since I'm very comfortable there, if it's out of place or it's chaotic, I can't rest and I can't like recharge. And so I guess a little bit of that seems to translate out into my physical environment, where if that is out of line and cluttered and messy and all this stuff, they don't feel congruent between the way my mind is working and my environment. And somehow by like evening that up and cleaning that and keeping congruency between the two, between like what's happening inside of my mind with my thoughts, and keeping those organized and also my environment organized, I don't know, something about it, it just helps me work better, helps me be more efficient and feel better as well. And it could just be me, it could just be introverts in general, I don't know. But it seems like when we get distracted, it takes us longer to get back on track. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't know, it's just like, I'm like at a point where I'm, just deciphering like the meaning of life or something vague. And then something happens and it just, some Joe Blow, calls me and is like, hey, car insurance, scam, whatever. And it just wrecks my whole train of thought. And it takes me so long to get back to it. Especially if it's like self-reflection stuff. I don't know, maybe that's just me. If you experience that at all, please comment down below. Let me know I'm not the only one here. Another way that you can do this is to create a quiet space. And this is a space that's void of all distractions, and it's always there if you need to escape and recharge. It's a place where you can go to work uninterrupted and for as long as you need. And the last one, number 3, become ruthless in your recovery. It's quite difficult to be productive, fulfilled, creative, etc. when you're constantly drained. Which is why introverts in particular need to be very, very ruthless and extremely strict on themselves when it comes to the whole recovery phase. The goal isn't to become, half rejuvenated. We need to take the time needed to become fully recharged so that we can operate at a peak level performance. If day in and day out you're drained and exhausted, then your life will be drained and exhausted. Like that's just kind of the way it's gonna be. That's what it's gonna feel like. And so, I don't know, maybe this applies to everybody again, but for introverts especially, it feels like it takes them a little bit longer maybe to kind of get back to like that full rejuvenation and that full energy. So I think that's why it's most important that we take the essential time we need to get back out of that and recharge and go do the things we need to do to get back into that peak performance of being fully recharged, hitting that creative, like creative highlight mode when we're just fully engaged. Like that's so important as introverts. For me, again, personal experience here, when I'm trying to recharge, I avoid social media like the Black Plague. Man, like it does not do well for me. I mean, I love social media. It's great, but it can be deceptive because it's like, okay, so maybe I'm exhausted, I'm in a crowd of people and I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I'm gonna go take some time to recharge. So maybe I go off by myself. So that's good, I'm introverted, I like to be by myself, I like it to be quiet. But then I spend time on social media. Like, I will usually, it'll make me feel better, but I won't come back and end that whole process. I won't come back feeling like rejuvenated and energized as if I would if I went and, read a book or just took some solitude or like journaled or something like that. Social media it'll make me feel better short term, like very short term, but my whole like emotional equilibrium will get worse, not better. It's not allowing me to organize and reorganize my thoughts and figure out what's going on. And another whole aspect of this is finding ways to recharge that don't make you feel guilty. This is like the worst thing for me. So, okay, let's talk specifics here. Let's say like this, it's pretty common for me to like plug away editing for like, 6 hours, let's say, and finish that period of editing. My brain is absolutely toasted. I'm running on like negative 15% battery life at that point, and I need to recharge. Like there's no two ways about it. There's no pushing through it, because if I do that, I'm just gonna get burnt out. Like I need to recharge. But if I take an hour and take my dog and go on a walk, then that whole time I'm doing that, and like that whole hour I'm gone, in the back of my mind, I'm gonna be thinking like, man, I have so much to do. Like I should be working right now. I probably could have pushed through it and all this stuff. And I don't feel energized afterward, because it's like that whole time I was blaming myself for taking a break. And there's a couple different ways to approach that whole thing. So let's go ahead and look at a few of them. And the two ways that I've found to do this is to, one, schedule in free time into your day. And the other one is to place lightly stimulating activities that are also useful. So for the first one, by scheduling it in my day, when that period of my day comes about, then I don't feel guilty taking that time, because I've already planned my day around that free time. So I know that if I stick with the rest of my day and all the schedule of that, I can still finish what I need to finish. The other alternative is to let like small light tasks kind of kind of build up, like cleaning my room or washing my car or folding my laundry or, writing a letter to a friend or something like that. And, doing them when I need to recharge, because they're things that have to happen anyway. So I need to do them, but they're not like taxing. They're not hard to do. They're kind of mind numbing, which is great because if you're trying to recharge, getting bored is like one of the best ways of doing it, especially mental energy. So like, it's a great way to not feel, well, for one, you don't feel guilty about it because you're getting something done that needs to be done anyway, and you're recharging at the same time. And side benefit, it's a great incubation period. So for coming up with new ideas, this sort of stuff is fantastic. Like my mom was literally so confused when I asked if I could start doing my own laundry. It was great. I don't know, I could be way off on this, and obviously I'm biased, but I think introverts kind of have a little bit of a natural strength in this whole self-improvement thing because we spend so much time inside of our minds and becoming comfortable with our thoughts and trying to learn how to control them. The whole setting aside distractions or, diving deep into one task and deep work, not trying to be spread too thin, or just, even the creativity side of things. Like, I don't know, it feels like we have a little bit maybe more of an advantage in that aspect. And obviously there's advantages on the other side too. But I don't know, it's just something I was thinking about. I don't know. It's kind of neat. Like I see that in my own life, in specific areas of, me as an introvert, and how that kind of propelled me into this whole self-improvement thing because, I was spending so much time in my head and like not being able to control my, my thoughts, for example. It's like, this is not cool. Like I spend a lot of time here. I need to know how to do this, that sort of thing. And it just, I don't know, it seems like it kind of pushes us in a little bit more of that direction. So I don't know, maybe I'm way off. Let me know in the comments if that's not even close to what what it's like for you. So all that aside, if you're interested in learning about other productivity hacks and tips and tricks and things like that, I would love to go into them right now, but unfortunately I'm all out of time. So I will put a video in the dead center of the screen here. And if you're curious about those things, then I would highly encourage you to check it out.